All right. Good afternoon, parents. Thanks for joining us. I think we're on webinar number 4 now. So lots of opportunities to do Q&A and getting lots of similar questions, but new questions every time as well too. First of all, I should start off by introducing myself. My name's Chad Eichhoff. I serve as Director of Admissions here at Northern Arizona University, and we're all excited about your students joining us this fall on campus. And I want to give an initial plug, and you'll probably hear me plug it, and Annika plug it a couple times today too. We're going to be starting an online video series called Forecast from Flagstaff. In the first official episode, you may have seen the quick 2-minute teaser for it, potentially on the YouTube page that you're watching this currently. First official episode is going to be Wednesday, June 3rd at 5 p.m. We're going to be going live. But that will be recorded and you'll be able to watch that afterwards as well too. And we're going to use that platform, the Forecast from Flagstaff platform, to be answering questions throughout the summer as various decisions are made, and the plan for fall is clear, and we want to spell that out for you as families so that you understand all of that. One thing I do want to say is you can ask us questions, and we're going to be taking your questions live tonight. So in the chat function in YouTube, start answering questions asking questions that you have, and we'll be looking to those to answer those. But while you start thinking of those questions and typing those in the chat, I want to have my colleagues that are joining me introduce themselves. So Annika, do you want to start off and introduce yourself?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Chad. Good evening, parents. My name is Annika Olson, and I serve as the Vice President for Enrollment Management here at Northern Arizona University. And I have a recent, 1 year ago almost, NAU graduate. So definitely one in the lumberjack family. And then I have a rising senior in high school and a rising sophomore in high school. So I'm definitely kind of in the middle of where you are. I'm not sending one off to college next year, but fingers crossed the year following. And so happy to be on with you this evening. Shannon.
Hello, welcome everybody. This is one of my favorite things to do, to chat with families. So even though we can't see you live and in person, we feel you out there. So I serve as the Assistant Dean in the Office of the Dean of Students, and I'm also the Director of Parent and Family Services. I'm the mom of 2 young adults. My son is done with university life, and my daughter has just a little bit to go before she finishes her bachelor's degree.
Great. So still, again, if you've got questions you want us to answer, be typing them in the chat, and I'm going to be checking my phone as they come in. But to start us off, Annika, if you want to answer the question of how is NAU planning for reopening this fall, what's that planning process look like?
Yeah, that's a great question, and probably top of mind for everyone on the phone. And it's something that we have a number of work groups and campus leadership from faculty, staff, as well as our students engaged in the process of what campus will look like when students do return in the fall. And so we're looking at a new, what we're calling NAU Flex model for our instruction, which allows students the flexibility to join in a live lecture or class with an instructor, or to physically be in that class in a socially distanced fashion, or they can refer to that lecture later as they're studying for, or doing a paper, or doing a project, or studying for an exam. All of those will be captured in our learning environment. So they'd be able to access those later on should they need to refer to them. So kind of the best of all the worlds. We've been at the online instruction for over a decade here at NAU. And so the pivot to the online instruction this spring was a little smoother than I know some of my colleagues have shared from across the country. But in terms of what our university union will look like in a socially distanced fashion, and where and how we're going to have students screening themselves in terms of kind of health questionnaires, which I know have been a lot in the media lately, in terms of whether that's an app on the phone or some other way that they do that. Our dining, we're looking at capacity across campus and deciding how we're going to effectively manage a campus environment that we know students and many parents want their student to have and experience, but by doing that in the safest possible way. And as Chad mentioned, through the course, and our first forecast from Flagstaff is this Wednesday, and then there'll be one every other Wednesday, and each of those episodes will kind of be breaking down one of those, like a big topic. So right before our students move into campus, we'll be talking about the move-in and housing situation and the expectations we have as a community for students living in our residence halls, as well as being students on campus. And so just throughout the summer, as those plans are solidified, we'll be sharing them with you almost in real time with that forecast from Flagstaff show.
Great. I think this kind of ties into what you were saying a little bit, but is the start day for classes confirmed yet? And
yeah, great question. Like so many other campuses across the country that are in cooler climates, we've looked at really trying to end course instruction by that Thanksgiving holiday. If in fact we do get a second wave of this that coincides with cold and flu season, like so many scientists, I'm not a scientist, that are predicting, then we want to be prepared and get students and keep our students, faculty, as well as staff safe. So we are looking at starting a couple weeks early. So probably that first full week of August. I expect a date to be announced by the end of this week. I was hoping to have that for you this afternoon, but there's still some details that we're working out. And so, but we are looking at a slightly earlier start. And with that NAU Flex, that high flex model, we understand that if students aren't able, if they've made plans or travel plans already, we're looking at all of that so students still can receive instruction.
Here's a question I think that I can answer here. How do incoming freshmen get their JAX card prior to moving into the dorm? When the first time they get to campus that day, don't they need that to enter the dorm? So my understanding is that they are working through plans where that will be part of the check-in process when they check into the residence hall, is getting their JAX card. Obviously, students that live off campus and are not living on campus, there'll be another protocol in place there for those students to get their JAX card. One important step that's on the next steps list for students is submitting a JAX card photo. So if your student has not yet checked or submitted a JAX card photo, it's nau.edu/JAX card, since we're the Lumberjacks, and that's their student ID. And they can do so on that website. And it also has kind of a listing of some things they should take into account when, taking that photo. Don't be, wearing a hat if you don't, those types of things, wearing some random disguise, obviously, or trying to be funny. You want a good quality photo for students. And if they submit a good quality photo, they'll be able to print that ID ahead of time for the students, for them to be able to pick up at move-in time. Anik, I don't know if you have an answer to this one. Do you have plans for new international students, F1 visa, if they're unable to enter the US by the beginning of the fall semester?
We do. In fact, just about an hour ago, I was on the phone collaborating with our international team, and they're looking at a number of different instruction modalities for students. Definitely, we know our international students on our Flagstaff campus are such a vibrant part of that and sharing their culture with our domestic students. And so we do expect exchange programs, as well as many of those students that were planning to join us. And we had, more than ever, we had set some records with applications and students wanting to come. but getting those visas for some countries may be delayed, that they'll be starting with us in the spring instead of the fall. But we are pivoting many resources for those students to virtually learn as lumberjacks starting in the fall as well. So lots of different programs doing slightly different things, but we are encouraged by all of the interest in our programs at NAU around the globe.
I want to make sure to bring Shannon in on this conversation. So Shannon, tell us about Family Weekend.
Oh, great. You know, I love to talk about Family Weekend, Chad. This year, Family Weekend is October 2nd through 4th, the first weekend in October. And I'm here to tell you that that is just a glorious time in Flagstaff. It'll be a little bit crisp in all likelihood. The leaves will be turning. So it's a beautiful time to plan to come back to campus. At the moment, on our Family Weekend website, all we have listed is the save the date, because we are still working through our plans for what Family Weekend is going to look like, what seems most appropriate as far as welcoming families and guests back to campus in October. We're working that all through right now. But I know that some of you are planners like I am. So get Family Weekend, first weekend in October, on your calendar and plan to come back. We will be ready for you.
I'm going to send this one your way, Annika. Will there be other policies for health safety, such as mask requirements inside buildings, perhaps?
Great question. And I would suspect that there will be some policies and guidelines that we ask our community to follow. And certainly, as all of us know, our community, we do have a responsibility not only to ourselves, but to our community as well. And I do not have the specifics of students will need to wear a mask in this situation and not in this situation quite yet, but those are very active conversations in the work groups I spoke about earlier that do involve our student leaders to some degree as well. Certainly as an employee and a staff member of campus, those would be applicable to me, and all of us will be doing training prior to returning, prior to students returning to campus. And we're working collaboratively with not only our facilities team, our housing and dining teams, as well as the academic teams to understand what is going to be best practice, and certainly taking guidance from the Arizona Department of Health and the CDC, like so many other campuses are doing.
A couple of questions have come in around residence halls and students choosing to buy out double occupancy rooms, those types of things. And I can kind of speak to that a little bit. For those that maybe hadn't seen the communication or the email yet, Housing Residence Life, they're basically in a data collection phase right now, where they are getting information around interest that students have. So there's kind of three different categories that falls within. Seeing how many students are interested in a double room, buying it out to be a single room. And it's important to note that interest in that option does not guarantee that the student will get that option. We're simply trying to figure out how many students are interested in that option. The other one that is being asked is the interest in suite style housing. So one of our suite style residence halls, again, interest there does not guarantee that your student will get one of those suite style rooms, but we're seeing what interest is there for that. And then also collecting data around if there's a different roommate situation, potentially outside of the residential college model. At this point, that's also not fully a guarantee if your student says that, but we're again collecting that information so that we can then prepare once we have that data and have an understanding of students' interest in those three different options there. So I would encourage your students to log into the housing portal if they haven't already and select which of those options are things that they would have interest in. Kind of a clarifying question here, Annika, if you want to take this one. If the goal is to complete classes by Thanksgiving, will the semester start sooner?
Yes, we are looking, as I mentioned, for an earlier start. I do not have a specific date for you yet. We are hoping to conclude instruction in finals by Thanksgiving. There's a few other I's to dot and T's to cross with that plan. We were also looking at kind of a condensed semester using some additional instruction days. So again, the goal is to be done by the Thanksgiving holiday, with pushing the start a bit earlier too. Again, hoping to put that far and wide to parents, students, all of our campus constituents, but by week's end. As you can imagine, between keeping care of our students that not only live on campus and live off campus and some other academic components, there's a lot of pieces to make sure are aligned before we can go far and wide, but ours are expecting an earlier start.
Question about, is there a time estimate on when students will know what housing they will have with the new options that we have in the works? I don't know if Annika, if you have an answer to that.
I don't. As you mentioned, they're in the data collection stage. I know they've already modeled quite a few different scenarios based on what they anticipate student and parent response is going to be. I would suspect students by the first week of July, maybe shortly thereafter, would have insight on what their new or altered housing would be. I also a question that we've gotten asked a couple times in this similar format is, if my student wants to keep their roommate and keep their room they lived in, certainly we're not going to those students who want to keep their original kind of posting, if you will, certainly we're not going to disrupt unless absolutely necessary. I would expect little to few disruptions in terms of, my student wants to stay, they selected their roommate, they're both happy as clams and want to stay in their designated space. So this was to kind of take care of all those other questions we were getting to see if we could accommodate students' number one preference. And we know some of those preferences may have changed given the COVID situation.
Shannon, can you tell us about the backpack?
Yes, the backpack is an email newsletter that comes out every other week during the academic year. Maybe 4 or 5 short articles and some beautiful pictures of campus to keep families up to date on what's happening, provide some great information and maybe some reminders that you can pass along to your student about important dates and deadlines. If you would like to receive the backpack newsletter, you just need to go to our website, nau.edu/backpack, and give us your email address, and then we'll get you signed up. So like I said, our regular publication schedule is during the academic year, but I will do a summer edition. So if you want to hop on that, you can just give us your email and look for an edition this summer. Otherwise, we'll start rolling again bi-weekly in August. And then also, I know grandparents really love to get the backpack. So if your student's grandparent would love to see what's happening on a college campus in 2020, see some beautiful pictures of Flagstaff and our gorgeous mountain campus, maybe they'd like to subscribe also.
Question for Annika here. Are classes that are of a certain size as determined by the university that are normally on the larger spectrum going to be made smaller by having the majority go virtual while some attend in person?
Great question. And we're in an interesting position here, as Chad and I often say, we are determined to keep our class sizes small. And so a little bit of a benefit that we've always historically done so, we only have a handful of traditional classroom space on campus that hold and has the capacity to hold over 100 students. And I say traditional classroom space because certainly we want to practice social distancing when students return in the fall. So we've converted, or in the process of converting, many spaces on campus to potential classroom space. Some conference rooms and some other areas are pretty easily converted, so we can social distance. And so overall, we don't have massive, big lecture courses the way that many institutions, certainly in our state, region, and country, have. So that is one thing that makes the pivot a little easier for us. We're also looking at additional classroom space, so students can really choose to learn if they want to be kind of face to face in a socially distanced way. They can learn that way, but maybe they don't feel comfortable in that environment, or and want to stay in their residence hall room and learn on that particular day, or access that lecture later. They're able to do so. So we're looking at all of those as options, but looking at each and every class as in a socially distanced model.
Shannon, maybe you can answer this one here.
Actually, I will add to that, because I think the next natural question that's often asked is, well, what about labs? And we are looking at using classroom space and labs for longer periods during the day, for cleaning schedules. And so, some buildings on campuses across the country are, used Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday, only morning and early afternoon. And so we're looking at, offering a range of different class times, and have done some of that already. And some of those labs may be offered on Saturdays to make sure that we can keep our lab space and kind of interactive space that we need, engineering and other things with kind of more experiential pieces, so we can keep those experiences that we know are so valuable to students, so we can still maintain those as a part of our learning curriculum.
Maybe you can answer this one, Shannon. Is there an orchestra in which a non-music major may be able to play? If not, I can try to answer that too.
Yeah, I don't really know the answer to that. I mean,
okay.
I
know, yeah. I know Flagstaff Symphony Orchestra here in town, where there's community members that are involved with that. And I would just say, in general, Flagstaff is a vibrant arts community and music and community. So definitely opportunities to get involved.
I do believe there is one or two ensembles that you don't have to be music majors or minors to be a part of. I think they're, I always kind of think of them as club sports, but a little different. So I do think there are some ensembles.
I think you're right. Yep. I can talk to this about just describing the student online orientation process and what that looks like. So we kicked it off last week was our first session, and we've got 5 straight weeks where we have orientation. And the way we've set it up is we want your student to sign up for a 1-week block within that 5-week span there. And if they haven't registered for orientation yet, it's going to be nau.edu/orientation, and choosing the week that works best for them. As far as what orientation looks like then, the couple days prior to that week kicking off, the student's orientation leader is going to reach out to them. So we've got our student orientation leaders that are going to be assigned to your students, just like they would be if we had an on-campus orientation. We want them to have the opportunity to talk to current students. And they're going to give them the link to the orientation modules then at that point, a couple days in advance. And also set up a Zoom time to be able to meet up and have a Zoom meeting with the orientation leader. So we know that an important part of orientation is always meeting other students that are coming, as well as current students. So we're simulating that as much as we possibly can within the virtual platform. So they'll set up a Zoom meeting that'll occur sometime during that week. As far as the completing of the online modules, there's no set time that you need to get in there and complete those. Typically, we're hearing it takes about an hour, 2 hours, maybe tops to get through those modules for your student to complete them. So it's not like that day one, Monday morning at 7:30 a.m. they got to log in and be doing those. They've got throughout the week to be able to complete those. Then another part that it's not directly tied with orientation. Traditionally in our in-person one, the advising part was part of them being on campus. But in this virtual setting, advising is happening kind of separate from the orientation experience. It might be on the same week, it might not be on the same week in terms of when your student meets with an advisor. The Gateway Student Success Center that does all of our first year advising will reach out to your student to set up an advising appointment. And it's really crucial that your student begins checking their NAU email address, because they're going to send that appointment time to their NAU email address. And I would say that's just good advice in general for your students to make the habit to be checking that NAU email address throughout the summer. And while I'm on the topic, I guess, of advising, a couple other kind of key next steps, or one key next step in addition to that, registering for orientation, is completing priority enrollment. So if your student hasn't done so already, nau.edu/priority enrollment is where they can fill out an online profile that then gives the advisor an idea of confirming what major they want to study. So maybe they've changed their mind since they applied. Maybe there's some other things the advisor should know as well too. The student will communicate there. The advisor will then build a schedule off of what they submitted in priority enrollment. And then during a virtual advising appointment, your student will have the opportunity to talk through any changes that they'd like to make to that schedule. So hopefully that helped lay that out a little bit, but if there's clarifying questions, definitely let me know. Annika, do you want to talk at all about, will meals be served differently, buffet style? Any thoughts around dining?
Yes, lots to work out in dining. Besides reduced capacity for our dine-in option, there will be changes from how we are serving the food, which we had modified already. And we have dining facilities open on campus currently for our summer students. And so we've made some of those modifications, and in some cases it's just a pick up a container and go or eat in. We also do made to order things, and so those will look different. But in terms of a kind of the traditional all you care to eat, lots of modifications in terms of that. A lot of our retail spaces operate similar to fast food, what you see kind of happening now. In terms of Subway, and we also, similar to a lot of those fast food restaurants, have the abilities for students to order on their mobile and pick up, or, as Chad always likes to talk about, our Starship delivery robots. Students can order and have their food delivered to them by robot. So totally avoiding even needing to really go too far out of their residence hall. They might need to go down a flight of stairs, but definitely not too far. Chad, did you want to talk any more about that?
The robot, love the robots. There are 6-wheeled friends here on campus. They're essentially super high-tech coolers that drive around campus and deliver food to our students, similar to Lyft or Uber, where you can drop a pin and then have a car pick you up. You basically drop a pin for where that robot's gonna drop your food off. So pretty cool.
So Chad, on behalf of the robots, I would like to say that they're much more than just coolers.
That's true. they would be insulted by that. I said high-tech coolers.
Okay.
So we've got a question here, Shannon, about requesting parking, that kind of thing. If you want to kind of talk about cars, parking, transportation around campus, that'd be a great thing to cover, I think.
Yeah, sure. So we would really be very happy if our freshman students and our living on campus would just leave their cars at home. There's so many great things happening on campus. All their friends will be living on campus, and you just really don't need a car. Part of the reason for that is because we have a terrific shuttle system. We have our own NAU shuttle that runs loops all around campus. And we also have one of our city bus lines runs right through the center of campus. It's a great way for students to get to some of the housing apartment complexes that are right off campus, or to Walmart, for example, or some shopping that is close to campus. So it's super easy to get around, and there's just really no reason to have a car on campus. But if you decide, and if your student just wants to bring a car to campus, they will need to purchase a parking pass, and that can be purchased online before classes even begin. Their parking spot would be close to their residence hall, unless they decided to upgrade to one of our covered parking garages. But I'm here to tell you, I don't know about the two of you, but I always buy a surface pass because I like to save a little bit of money. So if your student does want to save a little money, buy a surface pass, just be sure to have a little snow scraper and brush and a small snow shovel in their car for those snowy days.
Do you want to also talk a little bit, I guess, I would agree that a car is kind of a luxury and not a need on campus. But for students trying to get maybe to and from Phoenix or elsewhere, transportation in and out of Flagstaff, do you want to talk about that a little bit too, Shannon?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So there are a number of different ways to travel outside of Flagstaff. We do have a small airport located literally maybe 7 miles from campus. So very close, and that's serviced by American Airlines to Phoenix and Dallas, and also United Airlines to Denver. So that is always an option. And we also have a private company called Groom, Grome, that runs a ground transportation service. They're, like 12 passenger vans. They're very nice, very comfortable. They pick up 2 places on campus, and they go all around the state. Of most interest to our students is usually to the Phoenix airport. But Groom also runs down to Tucson for our students who live in Tucson, and also some other locations around the state. Let's see, what else am I forgetting? How about the Flix bus, Flix? It's a large bus that runs a couple of times between Flagstaff, Phoenix, and Tucson. Not a lot of time offerings, but if your student can figure out how to ride during the times that are offered, it's a great deal. So don't forget to look into that. Our students who live in Los Angeles or that area, or also maybe Albuquerque on the Santa Fe line, can ride the train. We had a student worker in our office who lived near Los Angeles, and he rode the train all the time and thought it was a lot of fun. So if you live along the train route, that's also an option.
Kind of a clarifier here. I'm understanding that classes might start earlier than August 24th. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, that is a possibility.
They may start earlier. That is a possibility. Announcement, hopefully by the end of this week.
Great. Shannon, maybe you can speak to this. What is the plan for students to be able to join groups and clubs? And especially, I guess, if large gatherings, social distancing are not in place, or are in place. But kind of, do you want to talk about them being able to connect with clubs?
Absolutely. So, starting at the end of spring term, we started working on this. We have some high-level committees and teams that are working on planning events that will be safe and appropriate in this environment. Some really creative thinking about new kinds of events, new styles of events that will keep our students safe. But it's really important that our incoming students and our returning students feel connected to campus and are able to do all of those co-curricular activities that they were able to do before COVID. So we are working hard on that. We're really excited about the Lumberjack Experience, which is going to be happening right before classes start, with a number of activities, again, to help students jump in and get engaged, feel engaged, meet new friends right away, and make this their home.
Let's see here, we've got, forgot about orientation next week. Student has to work. Is there a way to work around that schedule? So as far as the completion of the module piece, that could happen any time of day. There's not a set time for that. So at your students' own pace for that. If the ability to connect with other students on Zoom conflicts with the meeting time, I would say reach out to nau.edu/orientation, and they could maybe move your student into a different, or excuse me, I said the web address, orientation@nau.edu, the email address, and they could adjust and maybe find another time. And at the very least, the orientation leader could spend some extra time talking with your student and making them feel comfortable about that transition to NAU. But we've got several weeks of orientation still, and we certainly can get your student into a Zoom session for that ability to meet other students. And the completion of the actual modules can happen anytime throughout the week, night or day. So, and typically, again, an hour or two to get through the module piece throughout the week. How does my student get an NAU email? So they should have automatically didn't set up a NAU email address when they applied to the institution. So I'm trying to think of what the short URL is for that. I guess it goes straight to my Outlook. So I don't know if I've got that one committed to memory, but if they go to their LUI account, I think they can link into that, or my NAU page, they can link into their email from there as well.
They can also call our service center. What often happens is with students is they forget their password they established maybe right after they were admitted. And as part of our security measures, we have students reset their password every so often. I actually got my warning today. I need to reset my password for security purposes. So if they have forgotten, they can call our student computing center. And I'm going to look up the number for you right now.
Perfect. Thanks, Annika. When is the payment for the dorms due? I don't know, Annika, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So the first payment after a student applies for housing is called the housing rent confirmation. And depending on when they applied and either paid or deferred their enrollment deposit, it was either due in mid-May or is going to be due on June 15th. Again, if your student logs into their LUI account, they can set you up as an authorized user. I think that's the correct term, Shannon. Authorized user. And then you can have access to their account and see all of those charges, many of which may have, depending on if they completed orientation last week, may have future charges already there. If they have not yet applied for housing, there's still time. We're still accepting applications for housing. They'll want to do that as soon as possible to make sure that we can plan for their arrival and all those things we spoke about earlier in terms of density and capacity and all that good stuff. So log on to find out if they were a real early applicant and paid their enrollment deposit, then that housing rent confirmation was likely due May 15th. If not, likely due June 15th. I think I got that right. May 15th, June 15th.
And I think as far as the fall payment, that will come into line once we've determined that start date and finalize that. As we mentioned a couple of times here, we'll be communicating out that start date in the next week. And there is that possibility that it could be earlier than the original start date that we had scheduled. And then the different payment dates, I think, will fall in line once that is established.
That first payment will likely be due early August, the way it has been in the past. And I do have that Student Technology Center phone number for those of you that are ready for it. So if your student has forgotten how to access their email or their LUI account, they'll have to go through a series of questions with our Student Technology Center. And I must say, every time I speak to someone in the Technology Center, they are so very helpful and walk me through it perfectly. That number is 928-523-9294. Again, 928-523-9294.
Perfect. Annika, how far in advance do students move in prior to the first day of school? 1 week, 2 weeks? Question about that.
Great. So usually just a handful of days. This year, we're going to be very specific on holding students to their assigned move-in appointment time. I'm guessing we'll probably start midweek. And so students we'll probably start assigning those times Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and probably trickle into the Monday prior to school starting. Again, once we have that start date, we'll know those, but students will be given a window of time. And in the past, we've encouraged students to bring families to help them move in. And certainly we don't want to restrict that too much, but given the current situation, we will be, we're not going to encourage students to bring grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, siblings, but really kind of primary caretaker, parent, or guardian to help them and assist them moving in. And really stay to that move-in time, because it's going to be so critical to make sure that we do that to keep everyone safe. And so it's usually just a couple days before the actual classes begin. We want them to get acclimated to campus, and so there'll be opportunities for them to do that. And Shannon, along with her team and student affairs, is planning some safe, socially distanced activities. Just the day or two prior to classes beginning.
Question if we'll increase the number of robots delivering food. I don't know if I know the answer to that. I would assume that's probably something that's being considered and looked at. Shannon, can you tell us about campus safety?
Sure. Campus safety is a big concern for all of our families, and it's also a top of mind concern for all of us working with our students. So we have a number of different programs and offices that specifically work on campus safety. So I'll try to hit some of the big ones. We do have a blue light system around campus. So they're the big blue lights on the pillar. If a student felt unsafe, they could push on the button on the blue light post. It would light up the light and then also call directly into our NAU Police Department. A student could keep moving, light up the next blue light, and NAU PD would catch up with them to assist. So we do have the blue light system. We also have a fully accredited police department on campus, just like any city or town would have. NAU Police Department. They have high visibility around campus, both in cars, on their bicycles. I think they have a quad. What else do they have? Maybe those things that you stand on that are balancy things. I'm trying to think of what those are called. But they're all around campus, keeping students safe. So we have blue lights. We have a police department. Oh, we also have a text alert system where students can sign up to receive a text message if there's an emergency on campus or near campus that might affect campus operations. And if you wish, your student could sign you up to receive those same text alerts. You can't sign yourself up, but your student can do it really in just a couple of easy steps. Easy to find on the NAU website at text alert. And it's not too burdensome. I mean, you're not going to get an alert every day. You may get a handful during the course of any given semester. And some of them are fun alerts if it has to do with the weather, because we all really love weather around here. So if there's a big snowstorm coming, or campus closes down early on any particular day because of weather, that'll come through on a text alert. So something else we have are folks from NAUPD who are available to provide assistance if a student would like someone to accompany them walking on campus. So for example, if your student is late at the Klein Library, hitting it hard studying, and they would like someone to walk home with them, they can call the walking assistance service at NAUPD, and they'll send out a couple of assistants to get them safely to their residence hall. So let's see, I usually forget one, but did I catch them all?
I was looking through the questions. Did you mention the 24/7 locked residence halls?
Oh, I forgot that one, Chad. So all of our residence halls are key card access only. So your students' access to their hall will be embedded in their JAX card, and they will need to swipe in to their hall. And that gives them access to their residence hall only, not other residence halls on campus. So if they have a guest in their hall, they will need to come down and swipe them in. And it also means that other people who don't have access to that hall embedded on their card will not be able to enter the hall without a resident along with them.
Follow up, cost for that Groom Shuttle. So a private company that offers shuttles from Flagstaff to Phoenix Airport and other locations. I think it's right in that $40 to $50 range, thereabout.
Yeah, I haven't looked lately, but usually it is. In the past, it's been between $40 and $50 a trip. So it's unfortunately it's pretty expensive, but you can save a little bit of money by booking ahead online. But also, students are really great at using ride sharing social media platforms to share rides back and forth to the airport. Students can post that they have an extra seat in their car for $10 and snacks, or that they're looking for a ride to Phoenix on a Friday afternoon. So students do a great job at managing ride sharing through social media.
Lots of interest in the robots today. Questions about if the robots enter the residence halls, that type of thing. They currently do not enter any buildings, so you would drop that pin for the drop off outside the residence hall and then have to meet the robot outside the residence hall or somewhere else on campus for that. Question around meal plans. If meal plans can be joined anytime, can you change plans at any time? So the meal plans, and I'll talk a little bit about that. For our incoming first year students, if you're living on campus, you are required to have a meal plan. The meal plans you're going to choose, the typical ones you choose from are either a 10 meal a week, 14 meal a week, or 19 meals a week. And those meals can be used in our all you care to eat facilities on campus, but also can be used in what we call transfer specials. And to explain what a transfer special is, you can use that at our retail dining facilities. So I use the example of Subway because it's an easy one to explain. At Subway, you can get a sandwich, a drink, and a side, and that would be one of your meal swipes on your card. So count towards your 10, your 14, or your 19 meals a week. We also, each of those plans comes with a different amount of dining dollars, and dining dollars are basically a declining balance debit that could also be used at the different retail facilities throughout campus. The 19 meals a week comes with less dining dollars, and the 10 meals a week comes with more dining dollars. So some of it has to do with the I guess, style of how your student's going to eat or what their plan is there. I will say within the first couple of weeks of class, your student has the ability to change their meal plan. So maybe they chose the 19 meals a week plan and then realized 14 is a better fit for them. They can make that adjustment, or maybe the other direction happened. They started with the 14, they picked the middle of the road one and realized they actually would like the 19 meals a week plan. So there is some flexibility there within the first couple weeks of the semester for changes to be made.
And Chad, if I could just highlight that I know it's hard to pick a starting point with those meal plans, but that ability to change in the first couple of weeks is really great. You and your student may think you have talked about it and you have the perfect plan picked out, but sometimes it's different once you get to campus and see what it's like. And it's a really easy switch to make right in the union in the meal planning office. So piece of cake.
Yeah, I will say I get faculty staff meal plans all the time, purchase them and eat in the hotspot or dining hall in the student union almost every day. So I can vouch for it being good food. Looks like Annika did some research, $49 for the Groom transportation shuttle. So again, that private company offering that shuttle from those pickup locations on campus to the Phoenix airport. So we're right in our 40 to 50 range. 49 hit in there.
Chad, I'm just going to add that during busy times, like during tight holidays, families, you can imagine that's a pretty busy time on those shuttles, but they will increase their capacity and they'll even start pulling a little trailer for luggage. So it really is a wonderful business. Lots of folks around town use Groom Shuttle. It's not just students. Lots of us use that to get back and forth to the Phoenix airport.
Got a couple of questions about the EDGE Leadership Program and if we can describe the EDGE Leadership Program. Shannon, is that something you can speak to?
Sure, yeah. So the EDGE Leadership Programs will be before classes begin. It's an early move-in program where students will be with a small group, maybe around 100 students, all incoming students, and they'll have mentors assigned who have been in the EDGE program previous years. They will work on leadership activities, team building activities, and in the past, they've also assisted with move-in too. So if you think your student would benefit from getting here a couple days early, being in a small group of students to get acquainted and really start building some closer connections before classes begin, then the EDGE Leadership Program might be a great option for them. There is a small fee. Not sure exactly what it's been posted at this year, but there are scholarships available for that. I know there's information on the website. If you just go to nau.edu and search EDGE, you will find information about that program.
Will you still be doing the freshman picture? Someone asked. So I'm assuming the giant NAU picture on the South Fields. I don't know, Annika, if you want to talk to that, or Shannon, or.
I would say, Chad, that there are a lot of really smart people trying to figure out how to do that in this particular environment. But boy, that is a tradition that is really close to our hearts. So we are working really hard to be sure that something safe, but yet continues our tradition of the letters continues for August.
I've heard really cool alternatives to having the entire first year class tight together in those letters. But letters, I would expect, but in and perhaps a more creative way than we've seen. I've heard a number of different options. I'm excited to see what the events team comes up with.
Do parents have access to campus? Do you need a pass or something similar to visit? Annika, do you want to speak to that, or Shannon, either or?
Shannon and I are just looking at each other. Who wants to take it? I think that that as we're planning in this new environment, and in the past, certainly we have, students, we ask that they are responsible for their visitors, and certainly during Parents Weekend, we don't require parents to register for any, certainly there are some events that are ticketed, so that's a different story, but we don't ask guests currently as they're coming onto campus to register in a formal fashion. Certainly as they're as students in a residence hall, they're locked 24/7, 365. So if Chad were going to visit Shannon and myself, if Shannon and I were roommates, we would go down and ask him to join us in the residence hall, need to pick him up at the front door, so to speak. There's been lots of discussion about limiting the number of visitors and those types of things. And as our conversations continue throughout the summer, and as we gain insight into the CDC recommendations and Arizona Department of Health, those things may be required. I don't know. There are no plans to do that at this point in time. Shannon, you may be part of some of those conversations as well.
Well, I guess just one thing I would add is that we're an open campus. For those of you who've been to campus, there's no gate around, no fence around campus, no gate around campus. I know a lot of people in the community enjoy walking on campus and biking on campus. So certainly I cannot imagine a scenario where our campus won't be open just as a open space in Flagstaff. That said, we will have to wait and see if there will be limitations on access to buildings or residence halls or that kind of thing in the name of safety. So as far as coming to campus, yes, you can absolutely come. I know the Office of the Dean of Students, where my office is, we have some of my colleagues are working. The office is open. Our doors are open. We have a couple student workers working out front. So, the university is definitely open right now for business. So if you decide as a family to come to visit campus, please, you are welcome to walk around. It will be a little bit different than maybe it had been in the past, but you can certainly walk around campus. You can take a self-guided tour. Chad, maybe you can talk a little bit about that. But yes, you are absolutely welcome. We'd love to have you see our beautiful campus.
Yep, and as Shannon mentioned, the virtual tour piece, if you have not yet visited campus yet, nau.edu/virtual has lots of resources for you. Your student can see the campus visit presentation again. If they want to do that, you can sign up to see that over Zoom. You can see the virtual tour piece where you move around campus. And then we also have a self-guided tour if you happen to be in Flagstaff this summer that you'll find on that website as well, including a podcast that students can listen to as well. Follow up on the EDGE Leadership Program. Registration's open today. EDGE is $85, covers the early move-in and meals, space is limited. Yeah, cool. So contact information's online and all of that to check out. Question of if we have an online way for students to send and receive homework. Yes, absolutely. They asked if we have Canvas. Blackboard is the learning management system that we utilize here on campus and have had online education for a very long time, over a decade. So certainly familiar with that. And I'm going to wrap up the last question. I had like 3 or 4 or a couple at least come in at around this similar topic around healthcare on campus. And I know we didn't touch specifically on that. So around, does campus health take outside insurance? And then around signing up for Louis Care. So Shannon, can you speak to that one?
Sure. So we have a terrific health center on campus called Campus Health Services. It's located on the first floor of the Health and Learning Center, which is also where the Recreation Center is. There's a number of excellent providers there, medical doctors, nurse practitioners. They're fully equipped to do regular appointments for care and also urgent care. So if a student is urgently ill and needs to be seen, they can be seen on the urgent care side of Campus Health Services. Yes, they are contracted with several insurance carriers. NAU also offers a separate insurance plan, which is kind of a traditional plan. And then another program for care at Campus Health, Louis Care,
Louis Care.
Plan,
Yep.
something like that.
Louis Care.
Louis Care.
Yep.
But I make it a practice not to talk too deeply about things that I am not an expert in. We do have some terrific administrators who work for Campus Health in their business office who can provide you with more detailed information. But I would first take a look at the Campus Health Services website, where they do have some general insurance information. And again, that's where you will find contact, email, and phone number for the business office of Campus Health Services for more detailed questions about insurance.
All right, so we're at time. I know we had a couple questions kind of coming at the buzzer here, but I will say that all these questions and all these different parent webinars that we've been doing, we're capturing those, and it's helping inform us to know which questions are most important to you all as parents and families. And another shameless plug for that Forecast from Flagstaff show that we're going to be launching. The first full episode is this Wednesday, June 3rd at 5 p.m. on Facebook and YouTube, and they will be recorded, so you can view them afterwards as well. And part of that is going to be answering questions like the big questions that came in tonight. And we'll continue to do so throughout the summer as those questions are ready to be answered for you all. So I would encourage you all to be checking those out. If you've got kind of more personal questions and you want to sit down with an admissions professional, shoot an email to admissions.appointment@nau.edu, and we will schedule a one-on-one appointment with you and your family. And we can do that over Zoom, or we can do it over the phone, whatever you would prefer. So again, admissions.appointment@nau.edu, and we'll be happy to set that up, and looking forward to continuing to communicate throughout the summer, and welcome your students on campus in as safe a way possible this fall. So thanks for your time, and everyone take care.